When you think of the Axis powers in World War II, you probably picture a trio: Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan. A monolithic block of evil, locked in a struggle against the Allies. But what if I told you that this simple picture is completely wrong? The reality is far more complex and far more fascinating. Welcome to 10-Minute History. I'm your host, Jake Sullivan, and today we're diving deep into the story of the Axis powers, strange bedfellows, the other nations that fought alongside Germany, and the tangled reasons why. To understand how countries like Hungary, Romania, and Finland ended up allied with Hitler, we have to go back to the end of the First World War. The peace treaties, especially the Treaty of Versailles for Germany and the Treaty of Trianon for Hungary, didn't create peace. They created resentment. Borders were redrawn, and millions of people suddenly found themselves living as minorities in new countries. This created a deep desire for revenge, or revanchism, in nations that felt cheated. For Hungary, the Treaty of Trianon was a national catastrophe. The country lost over two-thirds of its territory and population. Vast regions with millions of ethnic Hungarians were given to Romania, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. The national slogan became Nem Nem Soha, which means no, no, never. The obsession with reversing this treaty would drive every single one of Hungary's foreign policy decisions for the next 20 years. This widespread anger, combined with the economic chaos of the Great Depression, created the perfect storm for radical leaders like Mussolini in Italy and, of course, Adolf Hitler in Germany. They promised to restore national honor and tear up the hated treaties. By 1940, Hitler was the master of Europe, and he formalized his alliance with the Tripartite Pact, signed by Germany, Italy, and Japan. But the pact had an open invitation for others to join, and Hitler was eager to bring the smaller nations of Europe into his new order, setting the stage for his ultimate goal, the invasion of the Soviet Union. This brings us to our first case study: Hungary, the reluctant satellite. Hungary's alliance with Germany wasn't about a love for Nazism. In fact, the country's conservative leader, Regent Miklos Horthy, personally despised Hitler and his radical followers. But Horthy's personal feelings were nothing compared to the national obsession with undoing the Trianon trauma. And Hitler's Germany was the only power willing and able to help. This dependency paid off quickly. In 1938, Germany awarded Hungary a slice of southern Slovakia. Then in 1940, Hitler arbitrated the Second Vienna Award, which forced Romania to give northern Transylvania back to Hungary. Hungarian crowds celebrated wildly in the streets, but the price for this was a total loss of independence. In November of 1940, Hungary officially joined the Tripartite Pact. The country's Prime Minister, Paul Teleki, understood the horrifying danger. He tried to walk a tightrope, regaining territory with German help while hoping to keep Hungary out of a wider war. That tightrope snapped in April 1941. When Germany demanded to move its troops through Hungary to invade Yugoslavia, with whom Hungary had just signed a friendship treaty, Teleki saw no honorable way out. He committed suicide, leaving a note that read, "We have placed ourselves on the side of scoundrels. We will become body snatchers, a nation of trash. I am guilty." Under a new prime minister, Hungary joined the invasion of Yugoslavia and, a few months later, declared war on the Soviet Union. Its military contribution was substantial and ultimately catastrophic. The ill-equipped Hungarian Second Army, over 200,000 strong, was sent to guard the flank of the German Sixth Army as it pushed towards Stalingrad. In January 1943, the Soviet Red Army launched a massive counteroffensive right at the Hungarian lines. In the freezing cold, without proper winter gear or anti-tank weapons, the Second Army was completely shattered. It simply disintegrated. Around 125,000 men were killed, wounded, or captured, a national trauma that shook the country to its core. After this disaster, Regent Horthy realized Germany was going to lose the war. He started putting out secret peace feelers to the Western Allies. Hitler was not fooled. In March 1944, Germany launched Operation Margarete, a swift occupation of its own ally. With the country under German control, Adolf Eichmann arrived in Budapest to organize the final solution. With the horrifyingly efficient cooperation of the new Hungarian puppet government, over 437,000 Hungarian Jews were deported to their deaths at Auschwitz in less than 2 months. By October 1944, Horthy made one last, desperate move. He announced on the radio that Hungary was seeking an armistice. Hitler responded with lightning speed. He sent his top commando, Otto Skorzeny, to Budapest for Operation Panzerfaust. Skorzeny's men kidnapped Horthy's son, rolled him up in a carpet, and flew him to Germany. Faced with this blackmail, the elderly regent gave up. He was forced to abdicate, and the Germans installed the fanatical fascist Aerocross Party, which began a reign of terror in Budapest, murdering thousands of the city's remaining Jews on the banks of the Danube River. The siege of Budapest that followed was one of the most brutal battles of the war, leaving the city in ruins and ending Hungary's tragic journey as an Axis ally. Now let's turn to Romania, the oil-rich opportunist. If Hungary was a reluctant ally, Romania was an eager one, driven by fear and ambition. Romania's value to Germany cannot be overstated. It had one resource Hitler needed more than anything else: oil. The Ploesti oil fields fueled the German war machine, supplying over 50% of the Wehrmacht's oil at times. Securing this oil was a top priority for Hitler. Romania's motivation for joining the Axis was born from a disastrous year in 1940. The Soviet Union, with Hitler's secret blessing, seized the Romanian provinces of Bessarabia and northern Bukovina. Then, the Second Vienna Award forced Romania to give northern Transylvania to Hungary. These staggering territorial losses led to a crisis that brought General Ion Antonescu to power. As the new conducator, or leader, his goals were simple: reclaim the lost lands from the Soviets and secure Germany's protection. He eagerly joined the Tripartite Pact in November 1940. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, Romanian troops fought with genuine enthusiasm. For them, it was a holy war to liberate their lost provinces. But like the Hungarians, the Romanians paid a terrible price at Stalingrad. The Romanian 3rd and 4th Armies were positioned on the flanks of the German 6th Army. When the Soviets launched Operation Uranus, their attack was aimed directly at the poorly equipped Romanians. The lines collapsed almost instantly, leading directly to the encirclement of the entire German army at Stalingrad. The defeat was a catastrophe for Romania, turning public opinion decisively against the war. The Antonescu regime's role in the Holocaust was uniquely brutal. Much of the killing was carried out not by the Germans, but by Romanian forces themselves. In horrific pogroms in cities like Iasi and massacres in captured territory like Odessa, Romanian soldiers and police murdered hundreds of thousands of Jews. By August 1944, the Red Army was smashing through the front and heading for Bucharest. With the country on the verge of collapse, Romania's young King Michael I decided to act. On August 23, 1944, he summoned Antonescu to the palace, and when the dictator refused to seek peace, the king had him arrested on the spot. That night, the king announced on the radio that Romania was switching sides and had declared war on Germany. This stunning coup turned nearly 500,000 Romanian soldiers against their former allies overnight, dramatically accelerating the collapse of the German position in the Balkans. Perhaps the most unique case is Finland, the co-belligerent. The Finns always insisted they were not an Axis power. They were a, quote, co-belligerent, fighting a separate, parallel war against the Soviet Union. This wasn't just a clever phrase. It reflected their very specific goals. Finland's actions were driven by the trauma of the brutal Winter War of 1939 to 1940. In that war, the tiny Finnish army had heroically resisted a massive Soviet invasion, but was ultimately forced to give up 11% of its territory. When Hitler planned his invasion of the USSR, he found a willing partner in Finland, which saw Germany as the only power capable of helping it reclaim its lost land and secure its independence. When the so-called Continuation War began in June 1941, Finnish troops quickly recaptured their lost territories. But here, the Finnish leadership showed incredible restraint. They refused repeated German demands to attack Leningrad from the north or to cut the vital Murmansk Railway, which supplied Allied aid to the Soviets. Marshal Mannerheim, Finland's commander, knew that tying Finland's fate directly to Germany's core strategic goals would make a separate peace impossible. Even more remarkably, Finland remained a functioning democracy throughout the war, and it protected its 2,300 Jewish citizens. Jewish men served in the Finnish army, fighting on the same side as the Wehrmacht. There was even a field synagogue set up near the front lines. In one of the greatest paradoxes of the war, 3 Finnish Jewish soldiers were awarded the German Iron Cross for their bravery. All 3 refused the decoration. By 1944, Finland needed an exit. After the Red Army launched a massive offensive, the Finns managed to fight the Soviets to a standstill with the help of German anti-tank weapons. Having blunted the attack, they signed a separate armistice with Moscow in September 1944. The terms were harsh, and one condition was that Finland had to expel all German troops from its territory. This led to the Lapland War, where the Finnish army fought a brutal campaign against its former German allies. Finland emerged from the war defeated, but it had achieved its main goal. It had preserved its independence and never became a Soviet puppet state. Other nations also fell into Germany's orbit. Bulgaria, led by the shrewd Tsar Boris III, joined the pact to regain lost territory but shrewdly refused to ever declare war on the Soviet Union, mindful of its population's pro-Russian sentiment. The Vichy regime in France, born from a humiliating defeat, actively collaborated with Germany, hoping to secure a place for France in Hitler's new order, and its police force was infamously complicit in the Holocaust. So what does this all mean? The involvement of these strange bedfellows was not a sideshow. The troops from Romania and Hungary were absolutely vital to the war on the Eastern Front. Their collapse at Stalingrad was a major turning point of the entire war. Romanian oil literally fueled the German panzers. Their stories also show that the Holocaust was a pan-European project, carried out with the active and often enthusiastic help of local governments and police forces. Finally, the fate of these nations directly shaped the Cold War. As the Red Army liberated Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria, it installed communist puppet regimes, drawing the battle lines of the Iron Curtain for the next 45 years. The complex story of the Axis allies is a powerful cautionary tale about how the lure of nationalism and the desire to correct historical grievances can lead nations down a path to catastrophe. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know down in the comments below. If you found this interesting or learned something new, please give this video a like. And don't forget to subscribe to 10-Minute History for more deep dives. Thanks for listening.